Students, could you please give me a smile? That's our topic for today, emotions. Anyway, okay. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our class. And for this afternoon, our topic will be about minding emotions, the inclusive approach to mental health. In our everyday living, we experience various types of emotions because after all, without emotions, we will be empty. However, for today, how many of you are aware of your current emotions? What I mean is that the present time that you are feeling. Are you aware of your current emotions? What is it? You are happy? You're also happy? You are stressed. Sorry. You are happy? Calm? You are nervous? Starving? Is starving an emotion? May I hear people from the back?
Excited.
Excited. What makes you excited? There must be a stimulus that makes you excited, correct? Yeah, so what could it be?
Learning a new thing.
Learning a new thing. Very good. All right. So this is our topic for this afternoon. That minding our emotions, in other words, how conscious we are of our current emotions, is actually one of the approaches to mental health. You know already that I am Daisy Jane, but I think you don't know that I met one colleague last time here in UUM. She was from the USA, and then she read my name because she was in our research group. And then she read my name, but she didn't see me first. So during our first meeting, when she saw me, she said, "Oh, are you Daisy Jane?" I said, "Yes, I am." Then she said, "I thought you are blonde." So I answered back, "So, Prof, am I illegally blonde?" That was it. Anyway, you know the story already, why my name is like that. Our learning objectives for this afternoon is to define emotions, to understand the different theories of emotions, to analyze the physiological, cognitive, and behavioral responses of emotions, to evaluate how mindfulness towards emotions, quote unquote, relates to mental health. There are three components of emotions. Emotion is actually a relatively subjective state of our being, which we call feelings. And what exactly is emotion? According to this definition, it is a feeling state characterized by physiological arousal, expressive behaviors, and cognitive interpretation. Let me go to the detail of these components of emotion. These physiological processes of emotion includes our brain activation, it includes our neurotransmitters production, it involves as well our autonomic nervous system. You remember that we have the sympathetic nervous system, and the sympathetic nervous system has the autonomic as well as the autonomic nervous system has the sympathetic as well as the parasympathetic. So once we have this, once our emotions is triggered with physiological processes, then we have all this brain activation, we have this neurotransmitters production, as well as the autonomic nervous system. Emotion also includes has also the cognitive appraisal. The cognitive appraisals explains about the mental assessments. I will give you an example later. And then it has the expressive behavior that equals to emotion. Some of us are so fond of making surprises. For example, in this class, you were sitting alone, and then somebody, group of your friends, will just immediately come and then give you a surprise. They were bringing balloons, they were bringing some sort of food, and you don't have any information at all what is going on. Then suddenly, by looking at this stimulus of these friends of yours coming over, then you have what is actually going on, and they will sing happy birthday to you. You were so surprised because you have never expected that your friends will give that such birthday party. Therefore, you have already that emotion of being surprised. While you were just sitting, what usually you will feel? Because you were surprised of the situation. Your heart beats becomes faster. Then perhaps your skin temperature will also goes up. There are many things that is going on beside you. That is the physiological processes. At the same time, because of the situation that your friends gave you a surprise party, your mind is working. Your brain is having that mental assessments of what is this actually going on. So that is the cognitive appraisal. With these physiological processes and the cognitive appraisal, it gives you the behavioral responses. What you will do, you will stand up perhaps, you will be happy, you were surprised, and you will hug your friends because of the surprise party that's given to you. Then you have that emotion. So these are the three components of emotion. However, the cognitive appraisal can also have that negative and positive results. Because probably you don't want surprises. With reasons, valid or not, you just don't like surprises. So while you are sitting, you are somehow, your brain is telling you that you don't like surprises at all. So therefore, it gives you that negative cognitive appraisal of that particular situation. So the cognitive appraisal or your emotions, it depends on how you perceive it. And remember that emotions differ from one person to the next, because emotions has or will give us information from our environment, from our cultural perspectives as well, or from what culture we come from. We may have similar situations, but all of us will not have the same reactions. We have different reactions, or each individual has a different reaction even given to a similar situation. Always remember that. And at the same time, in one situation, we may also have various emotions. So therefore, the cognitive process, that's why it gives us either positive or negative, because it has something to do with the culture as well, or what culture we come from. Before we understand further, it is very much important for us to know about the theories of emotion. I hope you can see that. The theories of emotion are actually 6. And the very common one, or it is called the common sense theory, is that there is a stimulus, which here in the example is the snarling dog. This is the common one. When you see something dangerous, immediately you have the feeling of fear. Then the ANS, or the autonomic nervous system, arouse. So the sympathetic nervous system is activated. Either you fight or flight. Remember that ANS, or the sympathetic nervous system. That is just the common sense theory. I'm shaking because I'm afraid. However, James Lang theory have introduced another theory of emotion. For him, it says that I'm afraid because I'm shaking. You see the difference? The common sense said, I'm shaking because I'm afraid. James Lang theory said, I'm afraid because I'm shaking. So therefore, he explained emotion as this. We see the snarling dog, then the ANS arousal is activated. So remember that if it is the physiological arousal is activated, means you have the heartbeat, and then you feel tense, then you know that you are afraid. So the fear, the feeling of fear is placed to the surface, and now you know that you have the feeling of fear. That is James Lang's theory. Stimulus, the snarling dog, then the ANS is activated first, then that's the time you will feel that you are afraid. But this has been debated and this has been criticized. So later on, Cannon-Bard theory comes in. They said that I'm shaking and feeling afraid at the same time. So therefore, with this example, it has the snarling dog, the subcortical brain activity, because we see the stimulus, of course our brain is activated, or what kind of perception that we see, what kind of the situation that we see. So if it is dangerous, this ANS as well as the feeling of fear is being activated simultaneously, but of course separately. Separate entity, but you will feel the emotion at the same time when the ANS is activated. Do you get the point? Are you sure? Snarling dog, your brain is interpreting the danger. Then at the same time, simultaneous, meaning at the same time, simultaneously, your heartbeat is beating fast. Then you know that you are afraid. The feeling of emotion, the feeling of fear is there. Meaning these two is activated at the same time, but of course independently. That is Cannon-Bard theory. To continue, another theory said that Schatter-Singer cognitive arousal theory. For him, it says that this snarling dog is dangerous and that makes me feel afraid. So therefore, when you see the snarling dog, immediately your mind or your brain is interpreting that that is dangerous. Then it has the arousal of the ANS, then the fear. Almost closer to what Cannon-Bard theory says. But the difference is that the cognitive appraisal and the ANS makes this the two-factor theory of Schatter-Singer. Based from this snarling dog is dangerous and that makes me feel afraid. Another one theory is the facial feedback theory. It has the ANS activation first, meaning the autonomic nervous system is activated first. Then you have the expression or the bodily movement. Then the cognitive interpretation of what is it, if it is fear, if it is happiness, if it is sadness. So that makes the other theory, or this facial feedback theory. Meaning, the emotion that you feel can be seen through your face. Not only from face, but whatever bodily reactions that you will do. The last one is the Lazarus cognitive mediational theory. Appraisal of the threat. If there is something threatening, then the feeling of fear, then the bodily response. What you will do is that you will run away from the door. At the beginning, you might feel confused because somehow their explanation is closer to one another, but actually it differs in some aspects. So these are the 6 theories of emotions. The question now is that how well or how expert we are to identify one's emotions. Paul Ekman is an emotion psychologist based in California. In his study, he found out that there are 6 universal types of emotions. These are happiness, sadness, surprise, anger, fear, and disgust. These 6 types of emotions is not being considered as universal because it is being shared by everyone, no. But according to his study, there is consistency on how worldwide, across cultures, people, even with different cultures, have the same way of expressing these emotions. So for example, Malaysians, when you are happy, you smile. You know, there is that upper cheek. Even then in Africa, they do the same. It's very easy to detect that you are happy regardless of where or which culture you belong. So therefore, it is because it becomes universal, these 6 emotions, because of the consistency of the facial expressions. Therefore, this is, we know that these are the types of emotions. There are hundreds and thousands of emotions, actually. But these 6 are considered universal, according to the study of emotion psychologist Paul Ekman. Now, let's move to identifying emotions. Our topic is about minding emotions, an inclusive approach to mental health. In as much as it's easy for us to identify emotions, especially those 6 emotions, so I just place it there, happy and being sad. It's easy to identify if your friend is happy or sad. But there are so many unidentified emotions within us. Therefore, I asked you a while ago, what you actually feeling? Because when you said that you are happy, I am pretty sure that there are still underlying emotions that you feel. Perhaps being happy is dominant. You understand? Dominant. The one that is higher of the current situation that you feel. But there are underlying emotions that you feel actually at the same time. That is the purpose to make or to help someone have a healthy, to be healthy mentally or emotionally, to identify these unidentified emotions. One author have introduced this so-called operatic emotions. These operatic emotions are considered or are defined as vague and lack of sharp specificity. So there are times in our lives, you as a student as well, that you are just confused of what this particular emotion that you are feeling. It is somehow mystified, it's conflicted, and somehow you don't exactly identify very well of what is this emotion, which this will be addressed if we want to be mentally healthy. Moving on, operatic emotions is actually, it manifests themselves when we know we feel something, but we are not sure what it is. And the effort to fathom those feelings seems directionless or blunt. That is according to jurists in 2018. Have you experienced this? Have you experienced this? That sometimes you are not so much aware, or there are some emotions that you feel inside which you are not exactly sure of what it is. That is called aporetic. Aporetic, if we will define it literally, means A is not, it's something negative, and porea is crossable. Connote the difficulty of acquiring knowledge, not necessarily its impossibility. Therefore, now the challenge is that we need to identify emotions. As there are or were times in our lives that we had the difficulty in identifying emotions, it can be, an indication of more pervasive psychopathology. So if an individual has that prolonged time in his life that he could not exactly identify what are his feelings, that makes him confused, that somehow altered his performance, his behavior, distracts his daily routine, it is an indication of pervasive psychopathology. Psychopathology is a kind of a personality disorder, or a psychological disorder. Another author have introduced us this word, alexithymia, is actually a personality construct characterized by subclinical inability to identify and describe emotions in the self. One of the core characteristics of alexithymia is the dysfunction in emotional awareness. If the person is not aware what exactly he or she is feeling, then she might have this alexithymia. The difficulty of, or it is actually a dysfunction of the individual of not fully aware of his or her emotions. Moving to emotions and mental health, in one of our chapters in Introduction to Psychology, we have psychotherapy. So these different types of psychotherapy theories will give you the idea on how to conduct psychotherapy sessions. But anyhow, since you are not, as I have said, you are not majoring psychology, this will be introduced to you what are the different psychotherapies, the theories of psychotherapies to help the client. But those who are into psychology and to become psychologists and to become professional psychotherapists in the future, this is very important. So to just give you an overview of what is these emotions related to mental health, our clients actually, we have counseling center in UUM, correct? How many times you have visited? None at all? You are now semester 7, semester 6, and you have not visited at all? Why? Maybe perhaps you have misconceptions and you have misunderstood what this counseling is all about? Supposedly not, because actually the counseling session will help you make a clearer understanding about yourself. If you have some conflicting issues and relationship problems, as well as personal problems, adjustment problems, counseling session can help you. Anyhow, moving forward, we call mostly our people who come to psychotherapy, we call them clients. And these clients come to therapy all the time knowing that they feel something, but not being sure what it is. So this client will come to you. I have this problem. And you will ask, what is your problem? Most of the time, client will tell you, I do not really exactly know what is something bothering me. Maybe there are so many that he could not pinpoint what is the most urging issue that she is handling. So that is where psychotherapy comes in. A person can have two or more emotions at the same time in one setting or emotions. At this time, you are not exclusively happy. You have some other emotions as well. The initial step now of psychotherapist in helping clients or counselor is to help the client specifying the clearest type of emotion she is feeling. Psychotherapy is talk therapy. All you have to do is to disclose and to tell to this professionally trained person all about your feelings to help you solve your problem. If the psychotherapist failed in this initial step in doing psychotherapy session, then the session is actually, or the helping method will be useless, or it can be futile. These are the different types of emotions, and it has been categorized. Could you pick one of your current feeling or emotions today? Or perhaps yesterday? Could you pick one? May I have you? So you see, he's not sure. Because perhaps he has so many emotions. Joy.
Frustration.
Frustration. Harsh. Courage. Sorry. Hope.
Happiness.
Happy. You're always happy anyway. Worry, yes. All right. As I've requested you to just pick one, because all of us have at least one or two emotions that we are currently having at the moment. So these different emotions or these various emotions are actually easy to recognize because it has been categorically arranged. For instance, the negative and forceful are this: anger, annoyance, contempt, and disgust, and imitation. The negative and not control are the anxiety, the quiet, passive, the reactive, the agitation, all this. So you have already in your mind what are the different emotions under that specific category. All right, before we end this lecture, these are actually the key points that we had. Remember that our emotions are combinations of physiological arousal, psychological appraisal, and cognitive processes. And it is a subjective experiences. It depends on the individual. It depends on the culture as well as the experiences that you are in. And of course, it has the expressive behavior. It has the bodily responses. Our psychological appraiser of the situation is informed by our experiences, background, and culture. The field of psychology examines emotions from a scientific perspective by looking at their mental, physiological, and behavioral components. The experience of emotion follows a complex biological processes that includes, of course, our limbic system, the autonomic nervous system, and the reticular activating system. We have, or I have introduced to you or discussed with you the several theories of Cannon-Bard, Shatter, James Lamb theory. Awareness or being mindful of our emotions correlates to an emotional and mental health. The thing now is that, as a piece of advice to every one of us, because usually we are just so busy with all the things on hand. Busy with your co-curricular activities, busy with your 7 subjects, busy with your boyfriend, busy with whatever the university is giving you. Therefore, it is so much encouraged for us to take a short break and to analyze and to feel what is the current emotion that you're feeling. It says here, human beings are sensitive. They go through life so quickly and that they often don't stop to ponder what they are feeling. And that's one habit that needs to be broken. Find time in your 24 hours to be isolated and to be alone, meditate and feel, because it gives you emotional health, psychological health, as well as mental health. This one is a good saying as well. Never apologize for being sensitive or emotional, because it's a sign that you have a big heart and that you aren't afraid to let others see. Showing your emotions is a sign of strength. So therefore, suppressing emotions. Suppress meaning you just cover it and then it will be there for a long time without disclosing it. It will backfire you and it will give you in the long run the chronic diseases in the later time. Anyhow, this is a tutorial lesson. I'm giving you a form group of 3 members and brainstorm or explore the different emotions involved in the boiling frog syndrome. Go to your smartphones and read about the boiling frog syndrome. So as introduction, this is actually a fable about the frog. Then answer these following questions. 2, 3, 4 until 6, but the most important is what is another question we should pose for discussion. Thank you very much.